All right. This one right here is for all my hoopers out there. If you're trying to jump higher, you're most likely a basketball player. If you're a volleyball player, the stuff we talk about in this video can also apply to you. But basketball season is about to start. So can you jump higher in season? That is the magical question of the day. And we have a new face here on the podcast today. His name is Ben Moxness, and he is a certified hooper, right? I'm not a certified hooper. I only played in high school. John's not a certified hooper, but Ben right here will give you buckets. He played in college. And he also just happens to be our new coach at THP. So Ben, can you introduce yourself real quick to the people, give your background and your story, and then we can get into the topic here.
All right. What's up, guys? Yeah. My name's Ben Moxness. You might know me from Instagram at athletic.doc, all my sports science content. Like Zay said, I played college basketball. Shout out Northeast Community College and Doane University. In high school, I scored like 1,500 career points and set all my school scoring records, shot 40+% from three. So basketball was definitely my passion growing up. And so was jump training. So since I was 13 years old, I've been pretty obsessed with jumping higher and getting more athletic. And I got my first dunk when I was in 8th grade at age 14. I was only 6'1", but my arms are super long. So I had like a 6'6", 6'7" wingspan. So I got my first dunk in 8th grade. Trained all the way through high school and college. Unfortunately, didn't quite do the right kind of training like we do here at THP. So I didn't really get too much more athletic, but then got really obsessed with research and science. And I got a degree in exercise science undergrad. I'm now finishing up a doctorate in physical therapy. And I've been able to increase my vert from like 32 inches in high school to now like 40 plus. I'll be clearing 12 feet on the Vertec here soon. And I'm now the newest coaching member of THP. Super excited to work with all you guys, bring all my fun, nerdy science stuff to the podcast. And I'm ready. Let's hit
it. There are a few things I want to add as well, because this was, I was strongly in favor of this. So what you guys need to understand is everything that I've ever done in jump training has always been based around what is most objectively supported, meaning what evidence is there in scientific literature that demonstrates that X, Y, or Z thing works. Because you guys probably have seen a lot of people are like, well, I did this or I did this, and that's how I got my vertical. And I think a lot of the time it's easy to just be like, oh, I'm just going to do whatever they did. However, just because it worked for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for the population. And that's the beauty of science, is it does a good job of removing bias and giving you an answer that is as controlled as possible, and as objective as possible. So as you know, I kind of developed as a coach, I really leaned into that. That's what makes me so good at my job, and what makes Isaiah so good at his job, and how we've educated ourselves. And I think what has happened is there's a small cohort of people that have followed us for years that basically realized, this is working consistently for a lot of people. I'm going to fact check this, and I'm going to fact check this, and I'm going to fact check this. And then what has happened is the more people research into why we do what we do, the more it validates what we're doing, right? So like the more you test us and the more you're kind of like, well, is that true? The more you realize, shit, they were right. Like that is actually backed in a textbook or in research or whatever else. Like we don't just say things. And the more you learn, the more you realize, oh shit, they're not just a little bit better. They're a lot better than a lot of other people. And over the last probably year or two, I think what has happened is Ben doing his doctorate in physical therapy. He's learned and learned and learned and learned, and he's had more time to read recent research. And he's been surrounded with the newest research in the last, 5 years or so. Whereas, when I was in grad school, that was 2016, 2017. So some of the concepts that Ben has introduced were honestly fascinating to me. Like I was really interested. And as a result, I personally was like, there's no person who's more talented right now that's under the age of 30 than even 35. I would make that argument, or more educated than Ben when it comes to sports science, coaching, and jump training. Part of that is that we've in a way mentored him in a roundabout way, not intentionally, just by putting out content and him consuming it regularly. and not just consuming it, but digesting it, absorbing it, and reconsuming it, regurgitating it, reconsuming it, eating his own knowledge vomit. So he has, you know, my mentor Mike was used to say, great ideas come when two people with good ideas have idea sex, and then that idea is way better because that idea is the culmination of those two things. And more or less, in his funny analogy, that's what's happened. So I just want to say that because I think a lot of people would be like, well, why Ben? And the reason why is because he's demonstrated that his knowledge is far and above anyone else in the field right now when it comes to jump training. And I stand by that. You can't name one person. If you named one person, I would be like, you're wrong. Like, I'd be like, I'm telling you, he's teaching me things that I did not know existed. Like, I could explain the mechanism and he could go into the small details of it, which says a lot. Most people can't do that. So I just wanted to say that because that was the reason why.
I am really excited for our idea orgies.
They're going to be awesome.
Yeah. Also, I also want to say something. I've never heard, well, very rarely. There's been maybe like 3 people that I've heard John talk up in the exercise science world. So this is
how many
rare.
people have I endorsed, would you say?
Like literally like 3, I think.
Like 3, maybe.
I heard Mike, Rolf,
and Ben. And Ben has consumed both of those people's knowledge, and he could probably say,
love those.
And maybe the third is oh my gosh, I always get his last name messed up. Chris Beardsley. He's like but I didn't used to endorse him. He's only a recent endorsement. Yeah. So there's not a lot of people that I really stand by that are able to take the practice and knowledge base and kind of fuse those things. And I think what you're going to see is, you know, the level of coaching. And if you guys are one of our athletes, you're going to see that we don't just pick someone based on followers. We don't just pick someone based off how high they jump. We do it based off their expertise. And I don't randomly hire. I'm not like, hey, I want this person because whatever talent. It's really, to me, if I'm adding someone as a coach, it's because they're an expert in the field. I'm not adding just anyone. And I stand by that. And I take a lot of pride in that. I don't want to pick it because of views or exposure or whatever else. Those things are great, but I want it to be because of their knowledge base and because of their expertise. So enough Ben glazing, because I'm sure that we're going to get a lot of comments in that, and people are going to be like, podcast starts at 7:52. Let's get into the actual topic here. So obviously, like I said, we're in season. Ben, you were a certified hooper. You know, obviously you've done a lot of our programs, and what are some of the major pitfalls that you think guys are going to run into as they start their seasons when it comes to maintaining their vertical, improving their vertical, and training in general?
Well, the first one would probably just be motivation to train. You know, being basketball is a really long season, and a lot of different stressors, especially with school and like travel. Like if you're in college, and like a lot of guys kind of like lose the motivation to lift, and teams don't always like have a designated like lifting time throughout the week. So like having motivational levels, and then that goes into like energy, and then also just having like knowing what to do. Like I think some guys try to do like off-season programming in season and then end up just burning themselves out. So they need to like have a proper program of like with good volumes and intensities, and also make sure it's intense enough. Like some guys think in-season lifting is just, okay, let's just lift light, you know, get a little pump in and get in, get out. But no, like in-season lifting like should be like relatively like low volumes, pretty high intensities. Like we're trying to maintain strength, we're trying to maintain power. Basically no hooper in the world will sprint during the season, which they absolutely need. I think that's the number one thing they need during the season, is to find a time to, you know, either get on a treadmill, go in a hallway, sprint 20 to 40 yards, you know, get a few sets of those in. And because like that's probably the biggest quality I've seen, at least in myself and in like my teammates over the years, is like they'll detrain their speed really quickly. They won't power clean, they won't clean pull, they won't even do a weighted jump. So they'll detrain their power really quickly. And like just playing basketball for 3 hours a day or 2 hours a day is not enough to maintain your athleticism. And then by the end of the year, their vert's down 5 inches, their squats down 50 pounds, and they spend the whole off season trying to get just back where they were before, as opposed to like building on what they already built. So
Yeah, and I think a lot of the things you said are what we try to integrate, to the best of our ability. And if you guys are one of our athletes, go in the school community and see the in-season guide, because it does a really good job of kind of explaining what Ben did in a how-to way. Is like, how does this okay, how do I use this? It gives the specific steps. But just to kind of explain that, when we give guys programs, we're giving them full training loads to jump higher. We're not giving guys half training loads, because my job is to train you to jump higher. That is what you are hiring me for. Now, if you say specifically, I want to get faster. Sorry, there's a leaf blower. I don't know if you can hear that. Yep, it's right outside. Look at that. But
it's not that loud. You're good.
Okay. Because it's real loud here. But anyways, they're hiring me to do that. If they explicitly say, like, I'm in season right now, what should I do, or whatever, you have to take some ownership over that, because the reality is you're going to have a very different schedule in your practice that I can't account for, because I don't have software or I don't have hardware that's measuring your training load or your workload. I don't have access to the coach and the ability to even explain things or change things. It's just going to be what it's going to be. Like, I'm very limited. So what I want to do is educate guys on the best way to adjust programs and what you should do in season. Like Ben said, there are big key takeaways that you need to address in season to either improve or maintain qualities. And one of those things is sprint work. Sprint volume is not, you're not going to get max effort acceleration work. You might get max effort acceleration work for like 2 to 3 steps. Most guys are going to be top end by the time they're like 2 to 3 steps down the court. And I've seen it a lot. Basketball players freaking suck at sprinting. They're really bad. Like, they're hideous. They run with their shoulders down and they look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, like Quasimodo running down the court. It's horrible. And it's funny because track guys can't dribble and run fast at the same time. And it's like, oh, that kind of makes sense. But that quality is still rate of force development. And that can be really beneficial for change of direction, for accelerating, even 2 to 3 steps. Understanding that can be really useful. I do think the strategy and how you accelerate is specific to basketball, but there's a lot of benefit to doing that top end running, top speed running, max effort running, because you can check a lot of boxes that you're not getting in season. And that can help maintain your vertical. That can help maintain your explosiveness. That can help maintain your eccentric force generating capabilities. There's a lot of benefits to doing that aren't being already overstressed on the court, which is a big threat for in-season basketball. Is you guys are getting so much shit on the court already, right? Like, and I'm kind of curious, Ben, how many max effort jumps do you think most collegiate programs have their athletes do in season across a week? Truly max effort. I'm talking 100%.
Oh my gosh. Very little. I mean, outside of like the warm-ups, like the 20-minute warm-ups where half of it, or not, like 5 minutes of it is
layup
dunking
lines
or whatever, trying to impress the cheerleaders in the front row. But like, yeah, almost zero. I mean, like a back.
So like in practices, you guys aren't, most collegiate programs in practice aren't, guys are dogging it. They're not.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we're dogging it, dude. Like, you're telling me day after a game or day before a game that we're going to be like going hard? No.
Do you,
and
you
play
think high
like
school
every
programs?
2
Do
or
you think
3
high school
days.
programs push?
No, high school programs is basically the same. Like, any max effort jumps I got was always just after practice.
Like self-selected, pretty much.
Yeah, self-selected. Yeah, like they don't program it in. And even like you do a dribble move to a dunk or whatever, like that's not max effort. And like keep in mind, like we're also tall. Like for me to dunk, like at 6'6", like it's really easy. So it's like I don't need to give max effort to dunk anyway. So if our coach is like, oh well, we want you to dunk everything, well that's still not max effort. Like it's still pretty light for.
So would you say that that's because Doan was or how do you say it?
Down, yeah, down.
Doan. You guys were D3, but you guys were, I'm assuming, had a pretty solid basketball program there. Do you think that even D2, D3, or D2, D1, like what's the major difference in, do you think there would be a major difference across the divisions going up, like in terms of the intensity level? Because I coached a guy who worked at, he was a player at Cornell. No, it wasn't Cornell. Columbia. And he had told me the explanation of his practice schedule, and it was freaking nuts. And I don't know if you remember that post, Ben, but I went over like what he did in his warm up, and it was like the dumbest shit. It was like max effort sprints back and forth with max effort jumps after almost like a ball handling warm up. And I was like, okay, so it's basically exactly what I did in high school. Like, this is crazy that this is found its way into the Division I level. But do you yeah, it was kind of dumb. I mean, he had a lot of knee issues because of it. But do you think that there is a major difference in the practice organization when you go up? And then, you know, pretty much if you're in college, do you think that's true of basically any player in terms of dunking, that it's going to be that easy?
Well, it depends, obviously, like in terms of how easy it is to dunk. Like, it depends on the height. You know, a 7-footer versus a 6-foot guard, it's a little bit different. But in terms of the practice schedule, I would say it's actually pretty similar. Like, my coach at Doane, like, he has background. He coached at a D2. I think he like interned at like an NBA level too. And he's watched plenty of Division I practices I've been to, or I've friends that play D1, and they would like tell me how they practice. Like, every college like roughly practices the same way ish. You know, we do some live, we do some like shooting drills, some obviously lots of offensive and defensive install, like 3-man weave to warm up or something. Like, it's not too much difference, but no, you're not going to have like a time within the practice itself. It's like, okay, let's go out and like, let's jump and like,
or like sprint maximally. Like, even on suicides,
no way. And
like
if you ask a college coach, I don't care who it is, it could be Tom Izzo, and you say, hey, do you sprint your guys in practice? Like, do you actually have them go 20, 30 meters, whatever, rest, sprint again? No. Like, what about
suicides?
Sprints would be like conditioning.
Right. But like on suicides, like, what about max effort suicides? Or is it strictly like sub-maximal, like 80%, 70%?
It depends on the time. Like, usually, you know, for our suicides, it would be like, okay, we have to make it in like 30 seconds or something. And like, that's not like, you can usually make that without giving a full effort, but you're still not going to get to like max speed. Yeah. That's right. It's like 30 seconds. Yeah.
Okay. So that's, yeah, it's pretty interesting, because I've built them into programs before at max intensity for change of direction qualities, because change of direction, typically the sharper the angle, the cut, you know, the harder the cut is, right? So if I go, you know, a very obtuse angle versus a very acute angle, or 180 degrees, like 180 degrees is the hardest cut. You go straight full speed to straight the other direction. So when I build that into guys' programs, I'm trying to develop eccentric qualities by using that, right, as a tool at max intensity. And I want the guy to push further and brake later. Again, we love our car analogies, but it's like a race car. How far can you go into the turn before you slam on the brakes and then reaccelerate out of it, right? How soon can you reaccelerate out of it? The better you can do that, the better your change of direction qualities are. And I will say that when you're a more advanced athlete, they actually, I learned this from Tony Villani because he's a football coach, but they actually have a specific skill in the change of direction where it's intentionally not 100%, because if they go too hard, they cannot decelerate effectively. They can do it better compared to someone that better than someone else that's using the same strategy, but the strategy is to run sub maximally. That is the strategy, and to shift your body positions to get separation and things like that. It was kind of interesting. But I guess what I'm really wondering is, like, what percent of the practice would you say is truly over 80 to 85% of your max effort, whether it's change of direction, whether it's jumping, whether it's sprinting? Like, how many efforts past 80% across a week in season do you think guys are doing?
Oh, that's a tough question. This is also 3 years ago, Johnny. I'd have to think, but yeah,
for me, it was, I could have dogged every single time if I wanted and been fine. Like,
yeah, I have to be in almost agreement. Like, I would say we're max effort when we're like live and competing, but if it's just drills, like, it's not. I think guys may think they're going hard, but it's probably not actually any. Like, it's probably 80% or
even
less.
like the ball's able to mask how hard you're going, right? Like, it's like, in terms of like, unless you're going to decide that you're going to drive and dunk on someone, which you're probably not going to do in practice because it's high risk. Like, maybe you will, I don't know, but it's still, there's an inherent risk to it. Or like oftentimes you don't need a max effort jump for a rebound. It's more about timing, getting off the ground quick, positioning. And then if you're talking about blocking, yes, especially in Isaiah's case, he'll fucking send it like, and embarrass kids. But I think in general, it's like, you're really not getting max effort. You're pretty much always sub maximal. And that's a good thing, because if you were maximal, you wouldn't make it through the year. Like, you have to inherently drop intensity. And when we go and play, like, for example, Isaiah can play once a week at max intensity for 3 games. Yeah. And dunk every time. But that requires 6 days off to or 6 days of like training, et cetera, to get back where he's like fresh again. Now, if he was required to go play basketball on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then had a game on, and then we did it again on Saturday, like that's going to be almost impossible. He'd have to even cap the Saturday session.
What's crazy though is like even within a game where I am going as hard as I can, there might be 5 instances in one game. This is a game that lasts, 20, 30 minutes. There might be 5 instances where I tried to jump as high as I could. So it's definitely like low intensity. I remember back when I was in high school,
You're
I was
saying basketball's lower
yeah,
intensity?
basketball's inherently like it's like mid, like that 70 to 80% range. That's like where you live in basketball. When I was in high school though, I was always dunking between drills, before practice, after practice. Like I was thinking about when you were asking Ben, like, how many times did they have you do that? But within of my own volition.
Yeah, like your self-selected efforts were much higher.
Yeah, exactly. Or if it's a drill to go rebound, like, because I just love jumping. It's like, and then I was shorter, right? I was 6 foot, and the guys I was playing with were 6'6", 6'7", like 6'4" to 6'6". I had to jump a lot harder, but I think that played a huge role in being able to improve even within the season. Like I remember going into the season, I had hit my first windmill, and then I was East Baying by the end of the season. And yeah, and I was doing max effort jumps every single day. Kind of like what Ben was saying. Like I was max effort where I was filling in the boxes that weren't getting filled in by my coach. So I was max effort jumping every single day. And then when we were in the weight room, guys were dogging the weight room stuff. I was watching Olympic weightlifters and Clarence Kennedy on YouTube, right? So I was going in there and freaking maxing my ass to grass squat, like, twice a week when we would go for those weight room workouts. And I think I just checked those boxes of like just that high intensity work and max effort work. And my knees luckily survived. The other thing.
They were in pain.
They were hanging on by a thread, but
they did survive. So I think getting back to what you said, Ben, is like, making sure that there is some inherent intensity built in, and I think all of us are in agreement because you're kind of in this always submaximal areas. And then also that there is some strength work in there. But the real question is how often, how intense, right?
I do want to add to that question. Can you do that and stay fresh? Like for the season, and how? And if you can, how?
I have a thought on this, but I want to hear. Like
Ben, most guys, a lot of people on THP will cancel because they're about to hit in season, or they're in season and they won't sign up because they're in season, thinking that they don't have time, they're gonna be fatigued, like they're already tired. Like is that a thing? Is it doable? Is it not doable? Like what's your take on it?
Yeah, I would say
it's strategic.
It also depends on like the athlete's like age and health. Like I remember back in high school and in college, like for the most part in college, like I was healthy, like I could push every day and probably be fine. Like now I probably couldn't do that, but like a high school athlete, yeah, they could probably handle. Like I remember being 16 and full of testosterone and just like I'm ready to freaking go like every day. And yeah, so you could lift, like have 2 probably good lower body lifts a week, have your 2 games a week, do whatever you need to do in practice, have maybe 1 sprint session a week, like before practice, maybe after practice, and then do your max effort jumps throughout the week, like twice a week after practice, or like do a little bit more, but like pregame or something. But I would say overall, yes, I think you can absolutely increase your athleticism in season and build on that even more in the off season. But it just has to be really planned out. Like know which days can you push, which days can you not push. Like I knew in college, okay, we play Wednesday, Saturday. So Sunday will be like my true off day. Monday can be a really good lift for me. Like I can do a near full lift. of like sprints, cleans, squats at an appropriate volume. Like I'm not going to just like max out my squat or something. And then, like some accessories mixed in there. And then like Tuesday might be an upper day, which kind of primes me for the game on Wednesday. Sometimes Wednesday mornings I would go in and I would hit a clean or like some weighted jumps or a clean pull, which kind of primes me for the game. And it also helps me get in like a little extra stimulus throughout the week. And like that really helped me. And then day after a game would have been like a easy lift. Friday might have been another upper body day, and then Saturday we play.
Yeah, so it's more like you're getting like one hard day in a week.
Yeah,
maybe an early
like one hard
day
day
and then easy lift.
And then you gotta like microdose it too. So it's
I agree. Yep. So I think exactly what Ben said is like it's strategic. You really have to be strategic in like how you approach building in your lifts, but it's absolutely possible to stay fresh or improve in season. And one way is when you have the chance to jump high and you know your body, you take advantage of that. So if it is layup lines before a game, that's your chance to get 3 max effort jumps that are probably going to be better than your entire lifetime of adrenaline, right? That's probably the best time, the highest you're going to, in terms of environment, the best possible environment. Take advantage of that, because guess what? You only get that in college or high school. After that, it doesn't come back. Believe it or not, it's gone. You will never have that environment again unless you're Isaiah in front of a whole crowd of people. And you will probably not feel that fresh and ready ever like that in your entire life. So take advantage of that. Second thing is, like Ben said, if it's the beginning of the week and you're 2 to 3 days out from a game, get in one heavy lift at least, right? Get in a heavy clean, get in some sort of intensity on a squat, and then the accessory work. And then I think after a game, it's really important to get that feel good lift in. And that feel good lift for us almost always consists of a slow squat, 60, 70% for the tendon, heavy slow resistance training, isometrics, getting some work on the Achilles as well, I think is really beneficial. Maybe hit the glute med with some sidewalks or whatever, and the hamstring a little bit, and you're probably good to go. And then in terms of, like you said, the Ollies, it's an option if you want, morning of or before the game, you can try to hit some power work. Some people don't like it, but if you are capable of doing it, I think it's a really good strategy too. So the upper body training though is like 1 to 2 times a week that you should have no problem getting that in. Like 30 minutes in out, hit like 4 sets of 10, 4 sets of 6 or whatever, bench press, do some pull-ups and some bicep curls, and you're good to go. Like you basically hit every major muscle group and you're fine. So I think that's a really good strategy. And if you're on our training, like pick one of the heavy days and do that at the beginning of the week, a couple days out, and then look at the easy. There should be one easy lift in there. Do that one after the game. And then the third lift, it's like you're basically picking between 2 high intensity days out of the 3 options. That should be very doable. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do that. General days are up to you. If you want to do them, go for it. Like Ben said, he might do those on the upper days or whatever. And then the sprint work, if it's in there and you have access and you have the motivation, that's not going to hurt you at least once a week hitting that, I think. So yeah, that's how I would recommend our athletes do it. That is what we recommend in the school community as well. And I want to reiterate that it can be done. You just have to be very strategic. And then if you're on the flip side of this coin where you're hurt, you've got to be really good at communicating. You got to know your body really well, because that's going to be tricky, because your coach is going to
survival mode at that point.
Yeah. Yep. It's a little bit too late. If you're hurt right now and you're in season and your knees are fucked, you probably should have hired us like 3 months ago. That's a fact. All right. I feel like this is a good place to stop. We're about 28 minutes in. And there was a lot of stuff covered here. So that said, this is Ben, guys. Get used to seeing him on the podcast. We'll probably have him here every Wednesdays to start, maybe another day if we want to do a podcast in the evening, because he does have other responsibilities. If you guys are interested in getting coached by the 3 of us collectively, we are the most, I will confidently with zero hesitation say, we are the most educated, the most talented, and the best vertical jump coaches in the world. Collectively, the 3 of us, each of us individually are, but then collectively, the 3 of us, it's unparalleled. It's not even close.
The Avenger.
Dude, literally, I would put if it were a knowledge like fight to the cage match to the death with your brains being your weapon, like we would literally vaporize
1992 Dream Team, if you will.
Yeah, we'll vaporize everyone. All right, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.